Yeah, well, I've hit recording and I hope everybody's okay with that. If you could just take briefly, a moment to introduce yourself on this panel, because we will share this with a wider audience, whoever has been identified as somebody who represents this field and this group. So just for the sake of them, I'm Addy. I work in the alumni office as the alumni relations manager. I've been part of Woodstock for quite some time now. I joined Woodstock in 2009 as a dorm parent and have really enjoyed my time here. So and good to be in company of our alumni here. So yeah, that's me. And in no order, please go ahead and introduce yourself.
So I'm Ravish Dogra. I'm Director Estates, and I have joined 3.5 years ago, and we have done quite a few projects. So I'm going to talk about that today.
Great. Yeah, continuing in the Woodstock staff line, I'm Jamie Williams. I'm the director of the Center for Imagination.
And continuing in that line, I'll also jump in here too. My name is Katie Jo Walter, and I'm the Director of Advancement and Alumni Relations. I'm currently home with COVID right now, but severe FOMO has me showing up to this meeting because I'm really excited to see the great opportunities that can come together here, working with the states and the Environmental Collective and the Environment Affinity Group. So yeah, thank you.
I'm not a staff member, but I'm a student at Woodstock. I'm a current 11th grader. This is my 4th year. I'm one of the presidents of the Environmental Collaborative at Woodstock, and that's what I'll talk about today.
I'm obviously the elder of the group here. I'm Gabriel Campbell, class 1965, and worked for 4 or 5 decades on environment, mostly with ECMO, the International Center for Integrated Mountain Development. And I'm currently at our home on the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and our furnace quit 3 months ago. So I feel like I'm back in Landauer. No heat.
Continuing on the East Coast, we're all East Coasters. West Coasters here early in the morning. I'm Sharon Seto. I'm class of 79 and worked at Woodstock for 10 years as well, doing development. I'm still involved with the alumni relations here, but I also, in my other life, taught geography and very much see myself as an environmentalist.
Continuing on to Ms. Sherin, I'm Chandrima Devi. I'm a doctorate in forestry, and I'm here in Woodstock since last 4 years, and I'm assisting early years education program here in Woodstock School.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm class of 81. I was in Woodstock recently to give a talk about the work I do on this virtual museum on water, the Living Waters Museum. And I think I already talked about it to some of you in the group in previous meetings, but happy to be here.
Hi, I'm Darab Nagarwala, class of 1980. And I was also a staff member. Just recently left, actually, about 2 years ago. So I worked at Woodstock for about 15 years, for about 9 years at the Hannaford Center, and then another 6 years as a science teacher. And also very happy to be here. Looking forward to what we can do to keep the connection going.
Well, it's wonderful to meet you all. I'm Daphne Weisham. The Campbell family and the Weisham family used to go camping together when I was a kid. So Uncle Ernie and Aunt Alfie, great to see you. I was born in Missouri and went to school there as a young child, and then again for a year of high school. And class of 79, and I'm the CEO of a nonprofit called Methane Action, and we're working on what we call the methane, well, what a lot of people call the methane emergency right now. So I can tell you more about that later.
Hang on. Dana Kreider is joining us as well. Let me just have him come in.
But Arya can handle that, so you
Okay.
can lead.
So since we have Aditi here on the call, who has been leading a bunch of things at school as the student president of an environmental club, Jamie is here from CFI. They cover a lot of stuff that kids are doing. We wanted to kind of just share what's up in the student community and see where we can fit in as this group. So Aditi and Ms. Jamie, yes, please go ahead.
Thanks, Hadi. Hi, Dana. How are you doing? Welcome.
Hi, you're muted.
Dana, you're muted.
Lots of great friends here.
Great to see you, Dana.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was so pleased that Adi looped me in on this initiative because CFI has worked last semester with the Artist Affinity Group, the Alumni Artist Affinity Group, to bring alumni artists into CFI and do an artist residency. It was very successful. I think you've probably seen some things about that. But that's just one example of something that CFI can do in terms of linking alumni and students at the current version of Woodstock, if you will. So I'm really hoping that the Environmental Affinity Group can have the same kind of connections, that we can do something big, because there are so many people here who have such great experience. There are students who are so passionate about the environment. And that's what I'm going to let Aditi talk about. As an introduction, Aditi approached me about doing something with the environment. She had some specific ideas, but also had a bigger vision. So together we sort of fleshed that out into what has now become the Environmental Collective. I'll give a brief introduction and then I'll let her go into all the specific projects that we have going on right now. With a hope that maybe some of you can join in on some of those projects or just be a part of the Environmental Collective in general. So one of the purposes of this collective is to bring together all of the great projects that are already going on, because as Aditi and I started talking about this, I realized there are things happening in estates, there are things happening at Hannaful, there are things happening just in enrichment passage activities related to the environment, but they don't always talk to each other. So what that can mean is that some groups of students are saying, oh, we should really do something about XYZ. And then it's like, oh, good news, somebody is doing something about that and you can join their efforts. So the more we talk to each other, the more we can learn from each other, we can join each other's projects and passions, and we can also identify gaps. We can identify areas where nobody is doing something if we're all sort of on the same page with that. So one of our plans is to hold semi-regular meetings where we have just like a plenary group of everybody involved in these kind of issues. We haven't held one yet, but that's in the plans soon. We've also got a lot of specific projects that are working on different environmental issues. So I'd like to hand it over to Aditi to talk more about those.
Thank you so much, Ms. Jamie. So as Ms. Jamie mentioned, I'm Aditi. I'm one of the presidents of the collaborative, and this is a relatively new project that we started this semester, and I think there's a lot we can do with it. So before I go into the specific projects that we're doing, to speak about the larger meeting that we're planning on. So one of our main ideas is to have a meeting maybe once a month or once in 2 months where we invite everyone in the community or everyone who's related to the community in any way. And we sit and we brainstorm ideas about how we can make the community a more sustainable place. Along with the projects that are already going on, the leaders of those projects will come in and give updates as to what's working for them, what they're struggling with, and how the community can help them. Because this would be an open forum, the issues that the project leaders bring up, I'm sure there'll be other people who are experts in this field or who just simply have ideas who can help them solve it. So that's one of the things we're planning on doing. The first meeting would likely be held in October end, so maybe after we come back from quarter break or the start of November. So the projects we're doing right now, there's 6 subparts. So the first one is waste management. The second is composting. Then we have people working on establishing a butterfly garden. We have another team that's working on eradicating chlorine from campus. We have one team that's working on establishing regular cleanup drives. And our 6th one isn't an environmental project, but it's a publication that releases a magazine once every 3 months that's working in the direction of sustainability. And they also run an Instagram page, which right now has over 2,000 followers. Another project that's in the works is there's a bunch of students that are very passionate about paper recycling. And this is a project that should be coming up pretty soon. Along with that, since we've started, we've also had Mr. Akshay come into the CFI and talk to the community about a project he did called Mission Butterfly, which revolved around waste management. And it was this model that he implemented on a very large scale in Nainital and neighboring cities. And this is a model we're hoping to replicate in Woodstock, which is what the composting and waste management team is working on. In addition to that, we also, after I spoke to Dr. Sarah, we realized the extent to which art can be used to communicate the importance of sustainability, which is why we recently opened an art competition, and we're looking for submissions from the student body for creative ways of how we can tell the community to do better. And once those submissions start coming in, we're going to likely bring them to life across campus.
Yes, and I just have to brag on Aditi a little bit. She's being very humble about the magazine. It's called Hubble. You may have seen it before, but if not, Adi, perhaps you could share the most recent copy of it. It's really an excellent magazine. It's in the past, it's focused on a lot of STEM issues, but as you say, it's moving more in the environmental, specifically environmental direction. Like many good entrepreneurs, Aditi has started this project and gotten it onto its feet and then passed it off to someone else who is leading that Hubble project right now. But so just to elaborate a little bit, and if Akshay comes, I think he can go into even more. We're really excited about the waste management project in particular, because what we've talked about is emulating the project he's done in the past, where we basically take a sample of the waste that is created at Woodstock, and we determine the top offenders, essentially, so that we can then target those things specifically. You know, it's easy to say, oh, you know, don't use this or that, or, you know, we already have, for example, plastic water bottles are banned from campus. And so Aditi and I are constantly working on making sure that's enforced. It's easy to let things creep in on the sides, you know, people who don't know about that requirement. So we're always working to police that. But looking at the waste that can really be targeted so that we can change our behavior in meaningful ways. That's data driven. So that's part of that waste management project that she mentioned. I also just want to highlight the chlorine-free Woodstock project, which came up this monsoon. For some reason, it's just been really evident that people use a lot of chlorine to cut down on the moss, which is a human issue because we don't want people to slip on the stairs or on the steep surfaces that we have. But we're trying to look at, are there other ways that we can accomplish that same objective without destroying biodiversity and without creating toxins in the water supply. So that's part of what that is about. Aditi, do you want to mention any other details about those projects?
Yeah, so something I think we're particularly excited about is this idea of decentralized composting, which is one of the aspects of the model that Mr. Akshay worked on. And in this, the idea is basically, so there's a lot of staff housing across campus that's spread across a very large area. And Mr. Akshay already does this at his house. He does his own composting. So the idea is to ensure that the staff knows how to compost. So there's generally clusters of houses. So every cluster has one area where they compost and they get rid of their own organic waste themselves, rather than the idea of having one very large pit, which I think would be less feasible, and also the idea of transport. Obviously, for something like the kitchen, the amount of waste it produces much larger than something an individual house would make. So for that, decentralized composting would not work. And there's people, and Ms. Raksha thinks we should create a larger composting pit for that. But before we work on that, we want to get the decentralized system in place first.
Yeah. One final project I'll mention is that Ms. Chandrima and I have talked about another project. It hasn't quite gotten off the ground yet, but looking at something like an arboretum or a tree walk where we have a space set aside that we can identify the different trees on the Missouri hillside and even identify them in various stages of growth, so that students who want to go on a walk and look at this, or visitors to campus, can do that and be more in tune with the natural biodiversity that's here on the hillside. So a lot of projects in the works. We're really excited about it. And if any of these speak to you, or you have any expertise or just interest in helping out with any of them, please reach out to me and I will put you in touch with a DT or the right student leader to start getting more involved in some on-the-ground projects.
Thank you, Jamie. Thank you, Aditi. Thanks for sharing all of that. I had Akshay Shah from Hannaford Center on the agenda, but Akshay is tied up in a meeting with a university, North Arizona. He's finishing up a meeting and he should probably join as soon as he's done with that meeting. And we can move on to the next point that I had on agenda. I had Mr. Ravish Dogra, who's from the estates, Katie Joe as well here, who's been involved in a lot of this stuff. Just share what we've been doing, what are the plans for Woodstock in the future, and where does conservation, where does this whole group come into, like how do we kind of come as a resource to Woodstock in its developmental plans in the future. So Ravish and Katie Jo, you guys can share whatever you've been doing.
So Eddie, I would like to share my screen. So I prepared one presentation.
Yeah.
If you can just enable.
There we go.
Oh, shit. My settings is not allowing me to.
Do you want to share that with me? Maybe I can try and see if I'm able to share.
Let me do that then.
Yeah. Dana, since you joined a bit late, do you want to take a moment and introduce yourself? I know everybody knows you here, but we're going to share this recording with other folks who identify in this group while I try and help Ravish set up his presentation. You'll have to unmute yourself. There we go.
Sure, I'll make a few quick comments. Probably should have Dadav talking about some of this background as well. Way back in 1995, we had Dick Wechter here on staff at Woodstock, and Dick was a passionate environmentalist. And one of the ways he started by addressing things here was getting a couple of young fellows who had no work between their, one fellow was between his master's and his bachelor's and master's university. Another one was post high school, and another one was an 8th grade dropout. But he put these 3 guys to work cleaning the nullas, the gullies beside hillside homes and what have you. And then after they cleaned them and they had a pile of whatever mixed waste, then he would make them segregate the waste and then ask, now what do you do with it? And of course, the trend was that if you gathered it from one place, you threw it down the next gully. And Dick would never allow that. And from that, with 3 guys in 95, we ended up writing a contract with Woodstock in 2000 and had 5 years when CLEAN, which was started by Dick Wechter, we we worked at moving waste from Woodstock. And I don't think the problems for Woodstock have ever changed. We could find ways to get people on board to do fairly well at their segregation into wet and dry categories. But by far our biggest problem was the volume of wet waste from Woodstock. And that volume of wet waste always was the waste from the dining room at the end of meal times. And I think any of you connected now with Woodstock, you would have to acknowledge that's still the bulk of the problem of Woodstock. We tried to do a huge compost pit down along the new road, which never was a success because of the smell. I like what you're saying already here. Certainly, more localized, smaller compost units are the answer and the way to go. Can someone acknowledge that you still hear me? I think my Wi-Fi may have frozen.
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you. Thank you for that, Dana. And I would really love to connect you to a meeting in this group that is doing some of that work.
We are actually trying in all of Missouri to push ahead on this more localized, more micro sized composting for housing units. But again, a big part of the problem is that no one wants to touch waste. So we're constantly looking at the problem of encouraging people to handle it, to do something proper with it. Jamie, we'll get back and talk more with students. I don't want to take over if Ravish and Adi are ready to go unless there are questions I should answer. I guess I would add this quickly. From the year 2000 to now, things have changed drastically for our NGO. We now are doing waste management for all 13 wards of Missouri, and we have about 180 workers to do that, 6 trucks moving every day. It's a major undertaking. And there's much more to the story, of course.
Can I just say thank you for that, Dana, and we will be in touch. I'll probably need to drop out of this meeting a little bit earlier before it ends, but we will be in touch over email about connecting.
Thank you, Dana.
Sure.
Ravish, I'm going to share the screen.
Yeah.
There's your. There we go.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk about the projects which we are doing, and we are trying to bring in as much as sustainability as possible. Next. So, we are trying to align ourselves to sustainable development goals of UN, and which has been also adopted by India. So we are trying to bring in as much as sustainability parameters which they are asking in our projects. Next. Next, Adi. So basically, we are trying to have all the 5 R's in place, so we want to reduce, we want to reuse, we want to recycle, we want to refuse, and we want to repurpose. Next. So I'll just talk about some projects which we have completed in last 3 years. So one was chord music, which was recently completed, and level 3 classroom renovations. So next. So these are some of the pictures of the completed projects. Next. So what were the sustainable measures that we took in these buildings? First of all, instead of reconstructing the building, we have chosen to renovate it. That is one of the sustainability main points. We have tried to reuse the existing materials such as wooden railings, steel, skirting, parquet flooring, light fixtures, whichever is usable, we have tried to reuse them in the new projects. Old furniture are being refurbished, and we are trying to use locally sourced materials such as stone, wood, etc., so that we are not bringing them from faraway places. We are also trying to use local contractors and local manpower so that those guys are also, there is economy which is going for Mussoorie. And then secondly, the manpower are trained on the projects so that they have good livelihood later on also, even if we are not doing any projects. And then we are using efficient lighting and heating system. Next. So as you can see that the trusses which we found out that they are in poor shape and they are not sufficient, because we bring in IIT Roorkee to have a look at them, and they said that you probably have to replace them. So we said we don't want to replace them, suggest us strengthening measures. So they suggested us strengthening measures, and instead of replacing them, we have gone for strengthening. So we added some steel to it and we strengthened the trusses. And same was the case with wooden trusses, So wherever wooden trusses were there, we replaced the rotten members. So we have not tried to replace completely, so we have tried to reuse them as much as possible. Whatever door windows that came out, which were not in a good condition, we just knocked them down, reuse the wood, for making furniture and all. So we have tried to reuse all the materials which came out from the projects. We use natural stone for flooring, so which is very important. We can use tiles, but again, tiles have a very big footprint, a carbon footprint, because they are baked in oven and all that. It emits a lot of carbon, and then they are sourced from faraway places. If you talk about India, like they are mostly sourced from Gujarat, so there is a transportation thing. So we want to avoid that. So we have used local stones. And also we have created some rainwater harvesting tanks, and that water we are using it for the flushing in toilets. Next. We are using efficient LED fixtures. It's not a rocket science. We know that LED fixtures are power saving. And whatever heating system we have used, they are based on heat pumps, and they use latent heat of the atmosphere. And that is why they're very efficient systems. So we have done away with the Bukharis, and now we are using VRV systems, which are really efficient. Retaining of old wooden floor. So when we were doing the classroom, there was an old wooden floor there. So we did not remove that. We did not go for RCC or anything. We just retained that. We use skylight wherever possible to bring in natural light inside, so that we are not dependent on artificial lighting. And then we have tried to illuminate as much area towards the south so that the more and more light comes inside. Next. So this is another project which we recently completed, was amphitheater. So here you can see that, if you can go to the next slide. So basically what we have tried to do is we have tried to use the natural incline of the hill, to create this kind of amphitheater. So there is no earth which was bought from outside, and no earth was transported outside. So that was one of the best sustainable measures which we have taken. So wherever to retain this earth, there was retaining walls existing. We took out those stones. We used the same stones here. And whatever the shortfall was there, the stones were sourced locally from Mussoorie and Dehradun. We use natural stone for paving. We use local contractors so that the local economy is boosted, and manpower, they are also trained. And when we don't have any projects, at least they can have better employment somewhere else if they're trained. Efficient LED step lights installed for night use, and there was no involvement of tree cutting in doing this project. Next. Recently, another project which was completed was sewage treatment plants. So whatever septic, we had a very old system of septic tanks, and they were really old, and they were leaking water and probably contaminating our streams also. And so we thought about having a sewage treatment plant in place. And so this sewage treatment plant is fed by Midland domes, Aldridge domes, Aldridge kitchen, and Ridgewood domes. So basically, three domes are connected at the same time. The Aldridge kitchen is also connected. So whatever sewage that comes here is treated in this sewage treatment plant. Next. So basically, this is a 60,000 liters capacity treatment plant, and we are getting 60,000 liters because right now it is running at a peak capacity. We are getting around 50 to 60,000 liters per day. This is being used to irrigate. This will be used to irrigate Hansen Field. Right now, since it's raining, we don't require to irrigate Hansen Field. But eventually, during summers and winters, we will be using this water for irrigating Hansen Field, which otherwise we were pumping water from the stream. Next. So I will talk about high school and quad renovations, which we did recently in the last 3 years. Next. So we did 6 labs, and here also the similar thing was adopted. You know, if you can see, the trusses are exposed, and they're wooden trusses, they're old trusses. We have just refurbished them and polished them to look as new. Next. So basically, if we talk about reuse, we have used, so whatever, when we were doing the labs, we found that the stools were in good shape. So we refurbished them and reused them. Whatever metal cabinets that came out, we used them in storage. Whatever granite that came out from the countertops, we have reused them in kitchen and bathrooms wherever we required them. You know, we did not throw anything out. The old roof insulation which came out and was in very good condition, we reused it. And the old roof was also retained, and we just put another roof over it. So that acts as a sandwich panel, and there was insulation in between. And if we talk about recycling things, the old wood, whatever was that came out, like the false ceiling came out from there, there was very good old wood used there. So we refurbished it and we reused it. Even the scrap wood, you know, was used in some places, like, you know, the art department took it for their art projects. There was an old false ceiling which came out. We refurbished it and reused it. Old metal sections, angle iron, whatever that came out, that was used to strengthen the trusses. As far as reducing is concerned, you know, we could have gone for imported furniture, imported lab furniture, but we chose made in India furniture, so that there is a less carbon footprint in transporting the materials. Then we have used energy efficient LED fixtures. We have used rock wool insulation so that the heat is retained and we don't lose heat if there is no insulation in place. We have double glazed window panes so that the heat is also again the same reason. And the local stone was used so that we don't have a very big carbon footprint on bringing on the tiles and all that. And wherever the partition walls were required, we have used AAC blocks. So those are made out of fly ash bricks, the fly ash. So basically it's a sustainable method of partitioning. Next. So basically old wooden false ceiling was recycled, existing metal trusses was strengthened instead of replacement. Existing roof sheeting was retained and they were used as a sandwich panel. Existing wooden trusses have been retained and strengthened. Skylights, we have introduced skylights here also so that the natural lights is coming, that should come inside. Next. We have also created one greenhouse. So what I think Jamie would be able to tell us, because this greenhouse is being used to grow plants, which is being used for CFI functions. I think they're making food out of that. Students' washroom have dual plumbing so that we can use rainwater for flushing. So here we are also using rainwater for flushing. Next. Center for Imagination. Next. So here, you know, we could not renovate this building because the structural engineers, IT Roorkee, said that this building cannot sustain anymore. You will have to bring it down only. So we had to bring it down. We had we constructed a new building. However, whatever stones that came out, we used that for cladding. So whatever cladding material you see in this building, that is the original stone which was there in the old building. The wooden columns which you see here, So these are recovered from the old building. So these used to be in the old building itself. They have been used as it is. We have used efficient LED lighting and heating system. So we have also used solar panels. We have started this as a pilot project. So we are generating electricity. So right now we are generating 8 kilowatts. So whatever lighting loads are there in the building, that is being fed by this solar plant only, solar panels only. We have used gravel around the building so that the water, so it creates a pervious surface for the water to go inside and recharge the aquifers. And we have tried to use maximum natural light south facing orientation because the building is facing south. Next. So other sustainability measures that we are taking in campus is like we have, as I already talked about rainwater harvesting tank, we have 5 lakh liters at Midland, which is used as a firefighting tank. 50,000 is at high school and 20,000 liters at Quad. So as we are renovating new areas, we're trying to add more of them. So replacing conventional tanks with biodigesters, what we have done in the upper school is that since the buildings are segregated, it's really difficult to connect them to a sewage treatment plant. So what we have done is we have gone for biodigesters, and they are very eco-friendly. We have replaced all the Bukharis from the classrooms with the efficient BRV heating system. We are using energy saving LED fixtures, as I already talked about. We are also using sensors to avoid wastage of electricity when there is no one occupying the room. So basically there are sensors installed in the classrooms. If nobody is occupying those rooms, the lights will get switched off automatically. We are using low flow fixtures in the toilets so that there is the flow rate is less. So we already talk about rainwater harvesting and use of water for flushing and gardening, reduce wastage of food in kitchen. So that is another thing which we are doing. We are trying to use as much as local material in construction. For example, we have used pathal a lot, so whatever path we are creating, we are not constructing them out of concrete. We're trying to use pathal. Even the cladding material, we are using pathal as a construction material. We are trying to recycle old wood and steel. Plantation of trees. Last year, we planted around 100 trees. Minimum use of paper. So we are going with the policy that we will print only if it is extremely important. Next. So what are the future steps towards sustainability? Next. So basically, we have created a project of solar farm at Turner Garden. So which will generate 900 kilowatt of electricity. However, we are right now looking for donors to have funds with us because this project is quite a large project and it will require quite a large sum of amount of money to do. However, this is in the pipeline, and once this is installed, because Turner Garden right now is not being used very effectively. We have some greenhouses there, but still there is barren land which is not used, and it is facing south. It's an ideal location for solar farm. And once this project is done, we can generate 9. So that will meet our 75% of our energy needs of the school with this solar farm. Next. So we are also planning to have phase 2 of sewage treatment plants. Right now, hostel is not connected because the levels are too low there, because hostel is located at a lower level, and we would have pumped the sewage if we wanted to use the same sewage treatment plant which we created for other hostels. So we are trying to put another sewage treatment plant there. Next. As we go ahead, we will have more rainwater harvesting systems in place. Next. We are also trying to, because we have a lot of leaves around, and so we are thinking of creating a lot of leaf composting units all around the campus. So this is just in the planning stage. So I just showed you because there's something which we thought that we can do it, and this is not a very expensive method of doing composting the leaves. Thank you, and that is all from my side.
Thank you, Ravish, for such a detailed presentation. I'm sure it's going to give us many ideas and
He is frozen.
It's frozen. Yeah.
Now we can hear him.
as soon as I talk, it just disappears. No, I was saying thank you, Ravish, for this detailed presentation. I'm sure because we've recorded this presentation, we've recorded this whole chat. It's going to be shared with other members of this group as well. It'll give us ideas of collaborating and engaging with school. So thank you for that. Katie Jo, if you just want to take a minute or something, if you want to share, you were part of the board meetings. I'm sure there was a lot of emphasis on development at Woodstock, future development projects and sustainability.
Sure. I wasn't really prepared to speak at the meeting, but and as you know, I'm quite under the weather. But I will just say that attending the estates planning meetings, this is very front and center. I mean, you can tell with the amount of detail that Mr. Dogra went into that this is a focus for them. But the committee as a whole is really strongly committed to sustainability, and it really is at the forefront of everything that they're doing. So I am really excited to see how our environment affinity group can plug into several of these different areas, and also excited to see not only the expertise that people like Dana Kreider and people who have been involved in these things in the past at Woodstock itself, because as we know, yeah, most human problems and most Woodstock problems are not new. So seeing what's come before and what we can build on from the past is going to be really important. So I'm really excited to see what we can do. And I think Akshay is with us now and ready to go, so I can pass it on to him. Thanks.
Thanks, Katie Jo. Sorry to put you on spot. I know you're under the weather as well. And yeah, Akshay, thanks for joining. I know you just joined. We're going to put you on spot here, but you're part of this our agenda as well today. So yeah, and we know that you're doing a lot of student engagement as well, and you are quite well aware of the needs of the hillside at the moment. So yes, over to you.
Thank you. Sorry, everyone. I had a meeting with North Arizona University, which kept on going. So sorry to join you late. I know I missed a lot. Good evening, everyone. Good morning, everyone, wherever you are. So we are doing some student engagement at Hannaford. We have an intern who is specifically working on the outdoors. So that kind of engagement is going on, where it is not only just outdoor living skills, but like leave no trace ethics and other things which are to do with environmental awareness and are reducing our impact when in the outdoors. So that program has sort of started, and this student intern is actually working with younger students, which is grade 8 students. So we want to build that culture and that bring that kind of empathy. We have 2 groups of students. One is looking at composting specifically. The other one is looking at solid waste management. When we were discussing about composting, we had the idea of creating a butterfly sort of garden. So we are looking at that. I went down and scoped out some areas, and now I will be once I still need to go down again because I went down and it was raining heavily. So I need to check the canopy and the species of plants around in that area. I want to go down on a day when it is, sorry about this. I want to go down again and have a look at that area again when it is clear and sunny, so that I can have an idea of the kind of sun which filters down through that. And once we have done that, then we will put it up to Mr. Ravish to see if it can be used. It is not going to be any sort of structure building or anything required. It will be very low cost. The cost will be limited just to getting plants, getting the host species right, and then we can create a garden, butterfly garden there. And it is not going to be a closed area because the whole concept is not creating a repertoire. but just in that space, so we can sort of the biodiversity of that area can grow. Basically, it's not only about the biodiversity. We already have the biodiversity, but the density then will go up. So those are some of the small areas which we are working with the students and CFI together.
So this
Akshay,
is at Turner Garden, sorry.
Ravish, not at Turner Organic Garden, because we were grappling with the fact that one thing, it should be visible, and the other thing, it should be very near to where most of the student body is and they have access to. So if we think about creating it at Turner, then the problem is that the students have to go there, which takes a long time, half an hour going, half an hour coming. So we were thinking of doing it at the dorm level. So we have checked some spaces out. I need to double check it, and then I will connect with you to see if that is okay or not. And also then we'll have to check if students are allowed in that area, how can they be allowed, and those kind of logistics. So then we'll be talking to the student, not only the student body, but the other leadership. So if they are allowed, not allowed, and all of that.
Thanks, Akshay.
Thank you, Ravish. Adi, you were saying something. Sorry.
Yeah. I was also gonna ask you if you wanted to share through your expertise and knowledge and experience, maybe 3 or 4 areas where this region, really requires action. And it could be very briefly. It'll also help us in continuing our conversation at looking at subgroups for the environmental affinity group, because that was a point of topic last time as well. So yeah, any area that you want to share from your own experience?
Yeah, the last time which we met, I had sort of like you were asking everyone, and that time I had shared that those are the 2 areas which I was looking at, and even Darab had said ki, yes, we should be doing that. One was looking at water as in, like, we have a lot of slopes which can be sort of rejuvenated, especially on the northern side, and create a water source for ourselves, which is going to be a long plan, because once we start rejuvenating the slopes, then it will take anywhere from around 8 years to 10 years, and definitely we'll be able to see those results. So that was one area, and the other area, obviously, which we've already sort of started in a small scale, is the solid waste management, which Jamie and I have been talking about for almost more than a year, Jamie, right? Yeah, we started it at the cottage almost like 2 years back or something. Yeah, but now with the student body here, we are also encouraging them. So yes, so those are the 2 main areas. And the third main area, again, like, which sort of again is very close to my heart, is because we are sitting on such a beautiful patch of forest, and it is like a heritage. We need to protect it. We need to conserve it. What really is happening is, like, if you go into our forest, yes, it is a lovely forest, great diversity, but then there is hardly any undergrowth there coming up, new plants coming up to replace these old ones. So we need to have like a sort of concerted effort on introducing smaller saplings, plants, so that the canopy is still there after 100 years, which we have right now. So yeah.
Thank you, Akshay. I think we try to give everyone like a taste of what's happening at Woodstock. What are the things that we identify with? Where do we think is action required? And there are already like 3 pillars that you can see. Like, there is the development process. Like there is infrastructural renovation and things that are happening where we can kind of collaborate, give our expertise, or give our advice, suggestions. There is student engagement, and then there is impact, especially what the 3 points that Akshay mentioned. And we could look at creating smaller groups. Maybe we meet up as a large panel and then kind of divide, get into smaller breakout rooms. But that could be something that we all can discuss. Since we do have another 5-6 minutes, and we'll kind of stick to the timelines. If you guys want to have the 6 minute to kind of have a discussion, I see Chandrima's hands are up. Let's use that time for that, and maybe the last few minutes to wrap up things. Sharon, does it sound okay? Like wherever we're headed this way? Okay. All right. All right. Chandrima, please go ahead with your question.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to know about the wonderful programs that you have been sharing that is going on in the community. And I'm so happy also that when Mr. Akshasha shared about the butterfly garden, which is going to come up, it's a wonderful thing. Also, when Mr. Shah, he mentioned about the forest understory growth. So we all know about the global climatic changes which have been affecting, and I have observed certain weed species, so which are actually taking up the forest understories, so which needs weeding them out. So I feel somewhere with the student effort, with Aditi and everyone, like they can group together and engage in this weeding processes to take out those unhealthy weeds from the forest and to help protect it. So that was my suggestion. Like I was willing to share when Mr. Akshay shared the thing about the forest understory. That's it. Thank you.
Dara, please go ahead. Go ahead with your comment as well.
Hi, I raised my hand up and we're both here together. So my work is on the intersection of water and arts and archiving. And I think I've already written to the team that I had interacted with when I was there. That's Jamie and Katie Jo and Akshay and Sanjaya and all, about a possible support for an exhibition, which would then link in with various things that the school is doing. But I also see that the school is doing so much and that the story is not being told.
Thank you, Sarah. There's a question from Sarah and Sharon, and then Daphne, you can go ahead too. Sharon, your question is, Woodstock is not an island. How is Woodstock working with others in the region on environmental issues? If anyone would like to go ahead and talk about that. Daphne, you wanna, yeah.
Well, just specifically, I mean, what's wonderful is, you know, Woodstock is really taking seriously their footprint locally and their impact locally, and that's to be commended, absolutely. But one of the things that I found most powerful in my junior year in Woodstock were some of the field trips, whether it was working with Mother Teresa's orphanage or going with Dick Wechter around the country. And it seems to me that there's an opportunity there to visit, for example, some of the devastation that's being caused by coal mining, the impacts on tribal communities as a result of that, and bring in more of an environmental justice lens, so that it's not just, you know, focused on what is essentially a very privileged community, right? I mean, Woodstock is extremely privileged, and bringing those privileged young people into contact with some of the injustice, climate injustice that's now going on all over the country. It just seems to me that that's an important lens to bring to the conversation, and maybe you've already begun that process, but.
Thank you. Akshay, you're muted.
Answer Sharon's question. Yes, we do a lot for the community, and actually it's not just the local community, but an extended community. At Hannafil Center, we have different kinds of courses. We have the 16-day Trek Leader course, where environment is a big part of the curriculum. We have been training youth from remote areas of the Himalayan region, not only from Uttarakhand, but all the way from Ladakh to Nagaland. And now even the government is taking cognizance of that. And we have been certified and impaneled by the Uttarakhand government, and we have been running courses for the Uttarakhand government. And these students come, and these are highly subsidized courses. So the students come, so partly it is subsidized by Woodstock and partly it is subsidized by the government. The students come from all these different villages and localities. Even the forest department has started sending us students. Government of the Nagaland has started sending. Every year they send a course, 20 people from Nagaland. So yes, we are trying to do our bit, at least where it comes to creating that kind of awareness when we talk about environment, specifically in these sensitive Himalayan states where tourism is big. So our focus is there. We are also the proud partners of Leave No Trace Ethics. So we take it very seriously. So we are doing a little bit. I know it is not a lot, but yes, we are doing stuff for the community.
And Akshay, Activity Week is back in full swing with some focus on these things of interacting with the local communities, as was mentioned also, correct? I mean, it was referred to in the comments. So I just wanted, and I know that you are in charge of that this year. I know it's in a different form this year, but
yes,
thought you could speak to it.
This year we were limited because of the pandemic and restricted travels, which we had taken a stand on. So no trips are going beyond Uttarakhand. So all the trips are restricted to Uttarakhand. So there are a lot of different groups which are going into different areas. We have around 8 hikes going through different villages into the higher Himalaya. We have some trips of the younger students going into Rajaji, where they will be interacting with the Van Gujars. Then there is a trip which is an art trip going into Kumaon to work with the artisans. There is one trip which is going for community engagement. Sanjay is leading that. So they are going through Gunj and Stree Shakti and then the Van Gujars. So yes, we are trying to do. It is slightly the numbers have been shortened this year because it couldn't fit in. So this year it is not really a week, but it is 5 days. We have been planning all of that, and finally we are almost there. Still, the names have not been finalized, so we keep on sort of working around that, but it is happening. Yes.
Thank you. I think we're going over time and a lot of people are dropping off, but for the next call, can we look at maybe we can set these up regularly, but also look at breakout groups. I'm taking an example from the Artist Affinity group. They're creating something called as a social hangout, which is a 1 hour, 2 hour long chat, which will have breakout rooms with different sessions. We can create these sessions if we want to. We can have different breakout rooms, student engagement, water issues, waste management, and those breakout rooms could be, we can do the first 5-10 minutes of introductions, then get into breakout rooms, have the next 20-30 minutes talking amongst our groups, and then come back for a final, follow-up. So that could be a structure that this group can follow, but something that I'm going to put in a mail and share it with you, and then you guys can share your thoughts and comments on how to meet up next time. How do we keep these discussions going, and how do we see wherever we can kind of connect or take an action. Any last comments from anyone? Otherwise, Sharon, do you want to go ahead?
Oh, nothing. No, go ahead. Gabriel, or you haven't said anything yet?
I'm very impressed with everybody, with all the initiatives, and to see how Woodstock is taking a very innovative and initiatives in all of these areas. And I commend you all for your work. I think it's great. Really good to hear.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Adi, for pulling this together. So I have.
Thank you. Thank you all for joining.
For organizing this forward.
Yeah, I'll share the recording with everyone.
The collaboration process going.
Yeah.
From the classroom yet?
Sorry, I lost your voice there, Sarah.
You didn't share the photographs yet with us, the ones you took of the four of us.
Let me send it to you tomorrow, first thing. Yes, thank you for that reminder. All right. See you all. Bye. Thanks, Katie Joe, for showing up. I know you're.
Take care, Katie Joe.
Thank you. No, I'm very glad I did. Yeah, I'm glad my fear of missing out drove me to be here.
Get well. I hope you get well.
Thank you very
Thank
much,
you,
Gabriel.
Gabriel.
Great to see you.
Bye, Katie.
Nice to see you, Akshay Baba.
Yes, Baba, how are you? Good to see you.
Good, good.
Hi, Sarah, how are you?
Hi, Akshay.
Lots to talk about. I'll be giving you a call shortly.
Please do. Please do.